Show map. As we reach the penultimate chapter of our series, we must recap the foundational instability of the India-China border, where colonial-era cartography and modern geopolitical ambitions collide in the world's most challenging high-altitude terrain. Animate Border. This episode investigates the future of the India-China border, focusing on how the 2020 Galwan Valley crisis fundamentally altered the strategic calculus for both New Delhi and Beijing regarding long-term territorial management and military deterrence. Satellite image. The immediate aftermath of the 2020 clash saw a rapid, unprecedented militarization of the border, with both nations deploying over 50,000 troops to forward positions, effectively ending the era of passive border management and confidence-building measures. Archival photo. Official responses from both capitals emphasized a shift toward armed peace, where diplomatic dialogue continues alongside the construction of permanent military infrastructure, including advanced airfields, bridges, and hardened bunkers along the entire 3,488-kilometer frontier. Infographic. This shift changed the nature of the dispute from a series of localized, manageable misunderstandings into a permanent, high-stakes strategic competition, forcing both militaries to maintain full-scale readiness throughout the harsh, oxygen-deprived winter months. Illustration. For the civilian populations in border regions like Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh, this transformation has meant restricted access to traditional grazing lands, increased military presence, and a pervasive sense of uncertainty regarding their long-term economic stability. Show map. The western sector remains the most volatile, with the 38,000 square kilometer Aksai Chin plateau serving as a critical strategic link for China, while India continues to assert its historical claims based on 19th century survey records. Document highlight. Today, the legacy of the 1993 and 1996 agreements on the maintenance of peace and tranquility is being re-evaluated, as the mechanisms intended to prevent escalation have proven insufficient against modern salami-slicing tactics and infrastructure expansion. Data visualization. A lesser-known fact is that the total length of the border is not a fixed, internationally recognized line, but rather an evolving military boundary that shifts based on patrol frequency, infrastructure development, and local tactical advantages. Comparison. When comparing the two nations, India emphasizes historical treaties and custom, while China maintains that the border was never formally delimited, creating a fundamental impasse that precludes a permanent, negotiated solution in the immediate future. Archival photo. Modern remembrance of the border conflict is increasingly defined by the 2020 Galwan Valley clash, which serves as a grim reminder of the human cost of territorial disputes and the fragility of the current, heavily militarized status quo. Illustration. The legacy of the units involved in the 2020 standoff is now deeply ingrained in the military culture of both nations, influencing training, procurement, and the strategic prioritization of high-altitude warfare capabilities for the coming decades. Timeline. Key dates following the 2020 crisis, including the 2021 disengagement at Pangong Tso and subsequent commander-level talks, demonstrate the arduous, slow-moving nature of restoring even a semblance of the pre-2020 border management protocols. Illustration. The story of the border dispute inspires today by highlighting the resilience of those who operate in the world's most extreme environments, where survival and duty are tested daily against the backdrop of complex geopolitical maneuvering. Infographic. The primary lesson from this ongoing dispute is that without a mutually accepted, clearly demarcated boundary, the risk of accidental escalation remains an inherent feature of the India-China relationship, regardless of diplomatic efforts to maintain stability. Show map. As we conclude this penultimate episode, we recognize that the future of the India-China border is not merely a regional issue, but a critical component of the broader, evolving geopolitical architecture of the 21st century Indo-Pacific region. The silence of the high Himalayas masks a complex, enduring struggle that will define the strategic trajectory of two of the world's most significant powers for generations to come, as they navigate the fine line between competition and conflict. This analysis relies on decades of documented history, official government reports, and satellite imagery, providing a factual foundation to understand the complexities that continue to shape the border dispute between India and the People's Republic of China. Infographic. In the eastern sector, the Tawang region remains a point of significant contention, with China asserting claims based on historical Tibetan Buddhist ties, while India maintains its sovereignty as defined by the 1914 Simla Convention and the McMahon Line. Satellite image. Satellite imagery confirms the rapid development of dual-use infrastructure on the Chinese side, including villages, roads, and heliports, which serve both civilian and military purposes, complicating the traditional assessment of border activity and intent. Infographic, India has countered with its own accelerated infrastructure program, prioritizing the construction of all-weather roads and tunnels to ensure rapid troop mobilization to the border, effectively narrowing the previous gap in logistical capabilities during the winter. Show map, the Depsang Plains represent a critical friction point where patrol rights are heavily contested, as the area provides strategic access to the Karakoram Pass, making it a high-priority zone for both Indian and Chinese military commanders. Document highlight, the 1842 Treaty of Chushul remains a primary historical document cited by India to support its traditional border claims, reflecting the long-standing, pre-colonial administrative history of the region that predates modern state-level disputes. Illustration, the role of the Tibetan government in the 1914 Simla Convention is a central point of debate, with China arguing that the Tibetan administration lacked the sovereign authority to sign international treaties, a claim rejected by Indian historians. Archival photo, the 1954 Panchsheel Agreement, which emphasized mutual non-interference and respect for territorial integrity, is often cited as a missed opportunity for establishing a durable, peaceful framework for coexistence before the 1962 conflict fundamentally altered the relationship. Show map, the G219 highway, constructed by China through the Aksai Chin region in the 1950s, remains a physical manifestation of the territorial dispute, as its presence directly challenged Indian administrative control and ignited the path toward the 1962 war. Infographic, military deployment levels have reached an all-time high, with both sides investing in advanced surveillance systems, including drones and satellite-linked command centers, to monitor the border 24/7, significantly reducing the possibility of undetected movements. Illustration, the psychological dimension of the border dispute is equally significant, as both nations utilize media, public statements, and educational narratives to reinforce their respective positions, creating a firm domestic consensus that limits room for diplomatic compromise. Show map, Demchok, located in the western sector, remains a persistent friction point where local grazing rights and infrastructure development frequently lead to standoffs between border patrols, reflecting the granular, localized nature of the broader territorial dispute. Document highlight, the 2005 Protocol on Modalities for Implementation of Confidence-Building Measures was designed to provide a structured approach to border management, yet its efficacy has been severely tested by the events of 2020 and subsequent military buildups. Infographic, the economic relationship between India and China persists despite the border tensions, with significant trade volumes continuing, creating a complex interdependence that complicates the strategic rivalry and adds another layer to the bilateral dynamic. Illustration, the role of international observers and the global community in the India-China dispute remains limited, as both nations prefer bilateral resolution, viewing the issue as a sovereign matter that should not be subject to external mediation or interference. Show map, the middle sector, spanning Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, is generally considered the most stable, though minor disagreements regarding the precise alignment of the border continue to exist, necessitating ongoing, low-level diplomatic and military communication. Archival photo, the 1962 war remains the defining historical event that shaped the modern perception of the border dispute, serving as a cautionary tale for both militaries and a reference point for all subsequent border management and defense planning efforts. Infographic, the shift toward a multi-domain approach to border security, incorporating cyber, electronic warfare, and space-based assets, reflects the modernization of military capabilities and the increasing complexity of potential future conflicts along the Himalayan frontier. Illustration, the importance of high-altitude logistics cannot be overstated, as the ability to sustain large numbers of troops at extreme elevations is the primary determinant of operational success and deterrence in the current, heavily fortified border environment. Show map, the Karakoram Pass, historic trade route, remains a critical strategic point, with its control and access continuing to be a subject of military interest and surveillance for both Indian and Chinese forces in the western sector. Document highlight, official Indian border reports consistently emphasize the need for a clarification of the LAC as a first step toward a permanent settlement, a proposal that has been met with consistent resistance from the Chinese side for decades. Infographic, the number of border patrol encounters has increased significantly, with both sides adopting more proactive and assertive patrolling patterns to establish their presence and demonstrate territorial claims, increasing the risk of unintended tactical confrontations. Illustration, the impact of climate change on the Himalayan region is an emerging factor, as melting glaciers and changing terrain conditions potentially alter the accessibility of border areas and the feasibility of infrastructure projects in the long term. Show map, the strategic importance of the eastern sector in relation to the Chicken's Neck corridor, which connects India's mainland to its northeastern states, makes the border security in this region a critical national security priority for New Delhi. Document highlight: the PRC Ministry of Foreign Affairs white papers on border issues consistently frame the dispute as a result of colonial-era impositions, reinforcing their position that the border requires a new, negotiated settlement based on contemporary reality. Infographic: the integration of artificial intelligence into border surveillance and decision-making processes is a burgeoning field, with both nations exploring how advanced technology can enhance situational awareness and response times in the challenging Himalayan terrain. Illustration: the role of local border populations, including nomadic communities, in monitoring and reporting unusual activity, remains a vital, albeit often overlooked, component of the broader border security and intelligence gathering efforts in both India and China. Show map: the strategic depth provided by the Tibetan Plateau is a key factor in China's border strategy, as it allows for the rapid deployment of forces and resources toward the Himalayan frontier, influencing the regional balance of power. Document highlight: independent estimates of the 2020 Galwan clash suggest that the human cost was significantly higher than the officially acknowledged figures, highlighting the intensity of the engagement and the lack of transparency that often characterizes such high-stakes military events. Infographic: the reliance on mountain warfare specialized units, such as India's Mountain Strike Corps, underscores the unique challenges of the Himalayan theater and the necessity of tailored military training and equipment for effective border defense and deterrence. Illustration: the diplomatic efforts to de-escalate tensions, including multiple rounds of Corps commander-level talks, demonstrate the persistence of both sides in seeking a managed, rather than explosive, resolution to the ongoing border friction and territorial disputes. Show map: the strategic value of the Pangong Tso Lake, with its high-altitude terrain and proximity to critical supply lines, makes it a focal point for military exercises and patrol activity, reflecting the broader competition for control in the western sector. Document highlight: the historical records from the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, including tax collection and administrative presence, are frequently cited by India as evidence of its long-standing, legitimate authority over the disputed Aksai Chin region. Infographic: the procurement of advanced military hardware, including long-range artillery and high-altitude capable aircraft, is a key priority for both nations, as they seek to gain a qualitative edge in the challenging and unforgiving Himalayan operational environment. Illustration: the cultural and religious significance of the border regions, particularly for the Tibetan Buddhist populations, adds a layer of complexity to the dispute, as territorial control often intersects with the preservation of cultural and religious heritage. Show map: the strategic importance of the Shaksgam Valley, ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963, remains a contentious issue in the broader context of the India-China border dispute, as it impacts the territorial integrity of the Jammu and Kashmir region. Document highlight: the 1899 McCartney-MacDonald Line, while never formally accepted by China, remains a significant historical reference point in the evolution of the border dispute, illustrating the long-standing attempts to define the boundary through colonial-era cartography. Infographic: the development of dual-use infrastructure, including 5G connectivity and advanced power grids in remote border areas, reflects the broader modernization efforts and the strategic importance of integrating these regions into the national infrastructure and economy. As we look toward the final episode, the enduring nature of the India-China border dispute serves as a testament to the complex interplay of history, geography, and power, which will continue to shape the future of these two great Asian nations.